this world comes with a price tag. I just had to run away. Big mistake. Anything worth having is worth paying for. Okay, now let's get to the video. Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Hasrat. On this channel, I post videos about personal development and share the experiences that I've had while living abroad. So if this is the kind of content that you are interested in, then please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss an update. Today, I really wanted to talk about why they say that there is no such thing as a free lunch. No matter how luring the word free may sound or seem, you need to understand that nothing ever comes for free. And when it seems that you're being offered something for absolutely free, be it something as simple as a free ride home or free food, then I think you should be extra cautious, because mark my words, sooner or later, you will be expected to pay up for it in some way, shape or form. And I'm gonna say this at the expense of sounding absolutely filmy. Everything in this world comes with a price tag attached. If you need to buy something really expensive or something branded and of high quality, then you need to pay the price. Similarly, if you want to get really successful in life, then you need to make some compromises and sacrifice a few things. And I learned this lesson the hard way. So for anyone who's watching this video, I hope you end up taking something valuable from it. Anything worth having is worth paying for. And you should always be looking forward to working hard towards what you want in life and truly earn it. Trust me, in this way, you'll be in a much more secure position in relationships and eventually lead a less stressful life. Also, if I can be honest, no one really likes or respects a freeloader anyway. So why be one? So let's get to the incident that made me post this video. About a few years ago, I was working on a professional project in India without expecting to go back to Canada anytime soon. However, I think my destiny had different plans, and I got an email which required me to move to Canada right away, because there was this official process that I was already desperately waiting for and that had been approved. For anyone who's interested in knowing what that process was or what I'm actually talking about, I'd love to talk about it, because there's no secret as such, but I might just save this for another video. So let me know in the comment section below if you want me to talk about my whole PR process in Canada, and I'd love to talk about it and share some valuable details. So yes, while I was in India at that time, I was not expecting to go to Canada, and which is why I had taken all the stuff that I had in Canada, brought it back to India with me. The lease of the place that I was living in was over, so I didn't have a place to go and live there. But because it was an emergency, I knew that there is no way that I can not go back to Canada. So I had to put the project that I was working on in India on hold. And I thought that I'll go to Canada for a few months or so, for whatever time period that official process will take, and I'll come back to India. So that was the plan. But there was a big issue. I didn't have a place to stay in Canada, and I didn't know a lot of people back then because I was terribly shy, and even now I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't make many friends, unfortunately. But I had to leave for Canada immediately and make the arrangements for where I was supposed to live. And yes, for those who think that every Punjabi has relatives in Canada, this was not true for me. Now, a quick flashback. While I was living in Toronto and working at my previous job, I had met a co-worker of mine who was this lady, middle-aged. Actually, she was my mother's age, and she also came from India, so we had this instant bond. But there was something else about her that made her extra special to me. You know, she was always very nice to everyone, like extremely nice to everyone. She would literally go out of her way to help other people. She would pick people up from their home whenever the weather was bad, and if you have ever lived in Canada, you know that the weather is always bad, or most of the time it's bad. So she would help people, she would give them ride back home, and I think that was really nice of her to do. Now that I think about it, I always blame myself for not doubting her, so to say. I was just so quick to trust her and tell her all about my family, where I had come from, what I was planning to do, everything, you know. And she had started inviting me to her place as well for parties and stuff. And just so you know, I was not the only one who was going to her place for parties. There were other people from the same job and other people that she knew. I didn't know anyone, and she just made me feel like family. Plus, she always had things to give me, like free food, little pieces of jewelry. There was no reason for me to doubt her or think ill of her in any way. And we worked in the same office every day, so we automatically built a bond, which is why I made another video about how you should communicate and present yourself at your workplace. So you can check it out. I'll put the link below, or it must be somewhere in the... I saw her every day, and that automatically made me trust her even more. She was really one of the kindest and the most warm people I've ever met. And most of the other people working at that job were immigrant workers, just like myself. And she had been living there for pretty much most of her life. So for us, she instantly became that go-to person who you'd give a call, and she was a woman. So I didn't find any reason to doubt her. And I keep saying this because, sometimes when you see a female being a female, you think that you can easily trust her, but that's not always the case, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so coming back to the story, I got so close to her that even after coming to India, I would still call her pretty much every week just to see how she was doing and just to check on her, and she would do the same for me. So when I got to know that I had to immediately leave for Canada, I called her and told her about the whole situation, and she did something that still is one of the nicest things that anyone has done to me. She offered me her place to live. And I know that was not easy because her husband was really going through some serious sickness, and she already had tenants in her place. So it wasn't like she had an empty house. She had to make room for me to live with her, and I really appreciated that. A little more context, this was in December, and winters in Canada are brutal. So it was a great relief for me when I got to know that I could go and live at her place. And obviously when I got this offer, I jumped at it. Big mistake. I just thought that I knew this lady well, and I had gone to her place several times by that point. So I thought it would be okay if I decided to live with her for a little while. I always thought that I will be paying her rent. But here's the highlight. She refused to take the rent. It just felt like more of a blessing in disguise. Cut to 1 week later. I landed there with a bag full of presents for her because at this point she had become my favorite person in the entire world. And that's when things started changing for the worse. I was expecting that there would be other tenants in the house, but there were way too many people. And if you've ever heard of people living in Brampton and overcrowding their basements just to make extra bucks, then unfortunately this house was no different. I'm just the kind of person who had never shared a room by that point, and I just liked my privacy a lot, which was nowhere to be found in that house. I knew that that lady's husband was sick, but I just didn't know how sick he actually was. He was sick to the point where he would need help getting up, and he would have hallucinations in the middle of the night, which just made it a very disturbing environment to live in. And yet there I was, jet-lagged and stressed out, in no position to complain, because obviously even if it wasn't the ideal place to live at, I was still grateful that I had a roof over my head in that brutal December winter in Canada. So I kept telling myself that it wasn't that bad after all. I can live through it. I mean, I had seen bad times and I had lived in houses that were very disoriented before. And this is where I want to tell you that trust your gut feeling. Your gut always knows what's right or wrong for you. And if you get that yucky feeling that I had and ignored while I was living in that place for the first week, I should have just listened to it and run. So if you ever have that feeling where you know that something is wrong, then I beg you to please trust it and protect yourself. So if you take anything from this video at all, take this. Trust your gut feeling, no matter what. I just felt completely out of place while I was living in that house. And worst part, I realized that that lady was not half as nice as she had pretended to be. She would come home from work and shit talk about everybody in the house, even her sick husband. It was a very negative environment. I still wanted to make up for what she was doing for me, so I wanted to clean up the house. I cleaned her room, cleaned the washroom, run the chores. I did everything just to make sure that I am not looking like a freeloader. I was happy to do anything to help her out and make her life easier. But then one day she started shit talking about me to her other tenants. All lies, by the way. And worst part, I heard it all. I mean, we were living in the same house, and the stuff that she was talking about was not even true. So it was natural for me to feel aggravated by the way she was behaving. At this point, obviously, I had realized that I had made a gigantic mistake by trusting her and taking a free favor from her. I was being greedy. When the opportunity to live rent-free arose, I jumped at it. Stupid. I started looking for some other place where I can move in immediately. As if all that was not terrible enough, one day I was living alone in that house and her sicko husband just started behaving in a very abnormal way. I knew he was sick, so I obviously wanted to take care of him, but that day he really got me scared. And if you're a woman watching this, then I think you know what I mean when I say he was behaving inappropriately. I just felt very disgusted. He started having these fits and things started getting violent. Found myself helpless. I knew I should have called 911, but I just didn't think of it at that point. Instead, I called a lady from the neighborhood who helped me tackle this situation. I just didn't know where I was going, but I knew that I had to leave that place ASAP. So I called a few friends, explained them the situation, and one of them was generous enough to let me stay at their place for a few days. And I'll tell you, as soon as I finished that phone call, I packed all my stuff at a pace that I had never worked at before. I just had to run away. I did try to call that lady a couple times, but she was at work, so she couldn't attend. I still had to leave, so I called an Uber and left. The same night that I left that place, I did call that lady again and explained her exactly what had happened with me. But instead of showing any sort of empathy towards me, she started blaming me for aggravating and seducing her husband. I mean, he is super sick and is older than my dad. So why would I even think about that? Later on, I heard that that lady kept cooking up stories, things like I kept her place dirty, I never wanted to pay rent, or I just wanted free favors from her. All I know is that I needed to protect myself, and so I did. There were days and months when I blamed myself for being so stupid, and it wasn't easy for me to talk about this openly, but I did want to share this experience, and especially on a platform like YouTube, so that everybody can maybe take something valuable from it. Please know that this is not to share any sort of negativity or hatred towards anyone. I understand that as humans, we need humans. We cannot do everything on our own, so at some point in life we will always need help from other people. But I want you to be very cautious about who you trust and who you take favors from. From what I have experienced, 99% of the times free favors are a trap. After that incident, obviously I'm a lot more cautious when I'm talking to people. I don't reveal stuff about myself that easily, and I refuse to take any sort of free favors from them, even if it's a small gift. You all must have heard that self-help is the best help, and I have started to live by it. When you have truly worked towards something and earned it, then that feeling of possessing that thing is very special, and that makes you earn respect in society and gives you peace of mind, which I think are the two most important things to have in life. I just wanted to share my story, and so I did. You don't have to like it, but it was important for me to share it. Feel free to tell me and talk to me on my socials about this incident, or if you have had any relatable experiences. Also, please tell me what other sort of topics you want me to cover on this channel, and I'd love to make videos accordingly. I'll see you in my next one. Thank you and take care.